What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and I am back with the best bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts. We have, I suppose, a couple of big events this weekend. We have the PFL and the UFC. Now, when I say this weekend, I say that loosely because the PFL is on Wednesday night, so make sure to tune in for that. And then the UFC is on kind of Friday night if you're in the States, or well, maybe it's Saturday morning. Yeah, it's like 8 a.m. maybe Saturday morning. So very, very odd time for me here in Ireland. I'll be able to watch it during the day. It'll be clashing with Man United and everything like that. So yeah, we'll have for once we'll have a Saturday night off, and maybe we'll even have a Sunday off as well. So absolutely fantastic. But having said that, it doesn't change the bets, and we will be over in obviously Singapore for the UFC, for the UFC, and in MSG and NYC for PFL. There's also a Contender series as well. The Contender series is another one, and maybe I will look at the bets this week because it'll probably the show will probably be out a little bit earlier because of PFL and all of that. But normally the betting prices aren't out when I record the show for the next week, and the show usually comes out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, so it's a little bit late for this week. So maybe we'll have a quick look at the Contender series prices if they are available, which I think they are. Right, let's have a quick look at last week before we get to next week. It was a bit of a bloodbath last week, not gonna lie. After the great run we had there over the space of 7 or 8 weeks, we have kind of come crushing back down there. Although the week before last was 3 out of 4, so we can't complain about that, but we've had a few 1 out of 4 weeks. 3 of the last 4, 3 of the last 5 have only been 1 out of 4, so not amazing. But look, we have to take the bad times with the good, and we had a lot of good times this year, so hopefully we can turn that around again. But last week, 1 out of 4 on the bets, and the Flier didn't hit. That Flier, I gotta stop picking Amanda Leibrook as my Flyer. Honestly, I've done it twice now, and she's got destroyed both times. So yeah, look, if that's anything to go by, back to knockout the next time for Leibrook. But yeah, no, she got destroyed in there. I think I was a little bit unlucky, honestly, with 3 of the other 4 bets. First off, Bogdan Ganitko over in KSW. He ended up losing in the second round, but look, my bet was basically that he would get him out of there in the first round, and he so very nearly did. Came out like a madman, but he did end up losing. The one winning bet we had was Nathan Kelly at -275. I actually think that came in a little bit oddly. It was a very, very good fight, and a very even, a lot more of an even fight than I thought it would be, to be honest. So the bookmakers had it right, more so than I did. And even then, I think they didn't have it totally right, because Nelson looked absolutely fantastic in there. But Nathan Kelly absolutely deserved to get the win there, and we got one bet there. Zhang Weili inside the distance. How unlucky, she almost finished her, I suppose, was it the second round, and definitely in the 5th round anyway, but didn't. And then Aljon Sean over 2.5 rounds. I think a lot of people called me kind of out on that last week, because they were like, I said in that preview that I thought it'd be an even enough fight, and it could go longer, and everyone was like, Johnny, O'Malley's not going to make this an even fight. Aljo's going to dominate. And it turns out it was the other way around. So maybe we both got that one wrong. But either way, yeah, that wasn't a great call. But I think the other 3 were not bad calls. Obviously 1 won, and the other 2 were a little bit unlucky. So we go again, and we come at the new week with a new Joie de Vivre, right? As it's a little bit early this week, not all the inside bets are out and everything, not all the prop bets are out and everything. So I'm going for 4 straight bets this week, and I'm going for a parlay. So I'm going for the parlay for my Flyer of the week this week. So we'll get to that in a second. But let's start off. I have 2 from PFL, 2 from the UFC, and then a PFL parlay as well to end us off here. So, right, first bet of the week I am going for is Shane Burgos. And he is -120 as we speak right here, right now. Now, that may change. Please keep an eye on that. The longer the week goes, obviously we're not too far out from it now, obviously coming out on Wednesday, but I think him versus Clay Collard is a very interesting fight, and I just recorded my preview for that before I record this, and I kind of, as I was doing that, I kind of talked myself more into my Shane Burgos pick, especially at that price. I think Burgos, because of what happened, I suppose, in the Aubin-Mercier fight, because of the fact he didn't make it, I suppose, through to the playoffs, and it took, what happened to happen for him to make it through, that maybe we have like a slightly, negative thought about him at the moment, when maybe we shouldn't have, or, maybe it's good for the betting folks that there is that about him. But like Burgos to me, when he came over to PFL, I think people went a little bit crazy, like, oh, this is an unbelievable sign. The UFC are distraught to lose him and all. He's a good fighter, don't get me wrong. I never thought he was going to be like a game-changing fighter or anything like that, but I think there was that overreaction, but then there was an overreaction to maybe the Aubin-Mercier loss because of that overreaction, when there maybe shouldn't have been, considering how good someone like Olivier Aubin-Mercier actually is. So I feel like if we stay in the middle of it, we will get a better look than the people going kind of mad on both ends. And that's kind of what I think I have done on my preview for this card, and what I will try to do here as well. Clay Collard and Shane Burgos is probably going to be a banger, right? As I said in the preview, I tried to kind of half-talk myself out of it, to be honest, because the way Shane Burgos spoke at the fights the weekend about how he's going to win at all costs and all made me think for the fight itself, it mightn't be the best fight in the world, possibly, but for the bet, I think that is a good thing, right? And I'll explain that in two ways. The first way is, right, if this turns into the fight that I suppose people are not expecting, in that it is more of a lower paced fight and someone maybe does something to change the fight in terms of grappling or whatever, who is more likely to do that? Now, if you'd asked me this a while ago, I probably would have said Collard, because we've seen him doing a bit of the grappling and stuff like that. But Burgos, has submissions in his arsenal. 5 knockouts, 5 submissions. He's well able to get the fight to the ground and do it there. But like, at this stage of his career, at this stage of his PFL run, I think he badly needs a win. That £1 million is up on the line as well. Let's not forget that. And I think the one side of it is, I think he could attempt to wrestle Clay Collard. Clay can be taken down as well, right? Clay has good takedowns, but I don't think he's the best defensive wrestler in the world. If Burgos has been working an awful lot on that, that could be one path to victory for him. The second path, I think, and the second point of it is, if Burgos is a little bit more willing to kind of get inside and to land all of his shots than just to kind of stand in the pocket and rain down shots, which he seems to be, I think that will massively benefit him, because you do not want to get there. I was looking earlier on, they're the same height and all that. You don't want to get the end of the Clay Collard jab. Even though they're the same height, Collard is a longer fighter. He fights longer. He jabs well. He throws his 1-2s down the middle and all of that. If you're Burgos, and he naturally kind of does this anyway, you need to get inside. You need to land those hooks to the body, land those kind of, your straight shots, but then your hooks coming up over the top. That will get you clinched. That will get you a takedown and stuff as well, just naturally. So I think that's what he needs to do. And, part 2 plays into part 1 here. And it's a smart game plan he needs, and he spoke about having a smart game plan. If you're Collard, right, what he always struggles with is that, people getting inside him, people taking him down. If you let him fight at the end of his jab, even if you're coming along with a lot of big shots from that position, he's well able to take you apart. So if Burgos does that, it's going to be issues, but I think he'll turn it into a bit of a war and all that. Another point as well, and maybe last point I'll make in this, if it does turn into that, where Burgos is landing a lot of shots inside and Collard is kind of landing his own as well, first of all, I think Burgos hits harder. But Collard has been in there a long time now. He's only been knocked out once, but what is it, 33 fights at 30 years of age. Burgos is only, 20, so that's a lot less miles on the road for Burgos than it is for Collard, even though he's a couple of years older than him. And I don't think that's played a factor in Collard's career recently so far, but if it turns into that sort of fight, it really could play a part here. I do think as well that Burgos is, as I said, the power advantage is with him. And if it turns into a fight that goes long and it goes to the judge's decision, that power is obviously going to be all important. So going for Burgos in that. And spoiler alert, he's part of the parlay too, but we will get to that. The second man I'm going for at PFL is Sadibou C at -150. He's fighting Carlos Leal in a rematch of the fight they had last year. And I went back and I watched that fight about an hour and a half ago or something like that. And it was a very interesting fight to go back and watch, because it's been 3 fights since that for Sadibou C, right? He beat Danilo Taylor to win the million, and then he finished Al Shalawi and he finished Shane Mitchell, right? Carlos Leal has had, I suppose, a similar sort of run, finished Zavada, finished Danilo Taylor. But I think what Sadibou C has become as a fighter is something that wasn't necessarily there when he fought Leal the first time. And what I mean by that is he kind of got through, he got, the massive Rory McDonald opportunity. He won that. He got through Miranda, got through Taylor, and then won the million. And I think since then, he's not been just getting through. He's been winning. He's been dominating. He's been putting beatings on people, but also like smart beatings, if you want to put it that way. And I think, and the reason I'm going for him at -150 is that price is probably based on the first fight more than anything else and how close that was. Like when I came and looked at it there yesterday, I was like, oh, that's a bit close. And then I looked at their histories and all, I was like, oh yes, the first fight, let's go back and watch that. And when I did watch it, it explained it all. But Sadibou C fights the same way, but with a lot more danger for his opponents right now. So let me run you quickly through the first fight. The first fight was all-out pressure from Leal, Sadibou C picking him apart for the first round from the back foot. But with Leal doing well to cut off the cage and land these pressures well. The second round, won by Leal by pushing him against the cage. And in the third round was Leal kind of getting a little bit tired and Sadibou C picking him off the back foot again. So the difference between that Sadibou C and the current Sadibou C, first of all, Leal needs to do the exact same thing. Push him back, cut off the cage, push him against the cage. That's how you win this fight. There's no doubt about it. Maybe you get a big knockout in the middle of that. Maybe you get a takedown. You submit him. Simple enough. I don't need to say any more about Leal in that one. But for Sadibou C, he needs to do what he did in the first and third round, but with what he has now. And that's his power, his finishing ability, those big knees he throws, those big leg kicks he throws, the big right hand. He started to throw even more. I think he is a lot more confident of a fighter. He's always an intelligent fighter, and he has just upped it since then. Right? You might think, Shawnee, it's only a year. It's almost a year to the day. But he always had it in him. This just brought him out. At 36 years of age, he is hitting his prime, and he's a very, very, very good fighter. He won the first one, right? He won the first one with everything kind of going for Leal. And if he won the first one like that, and he has improved since, I find it very hard to see him not winning this one. And that's why I'm going for Sadibou C. I think he is, as I said, so improved. I think he's going to catch him with something, and I think he'll end up putting him out at some stage in here, and I can't wait for it. It's a very intriguing fight. It might not be the most entertaining fight in the world. We'll see that in the main event, in my opinion, but I do think it's going to be a really, really, really intriguing one. I do think that. So I'm going for Sadibou C in that one. Right, let's talk about the UFC. The first bet I'm going for here is I'm going for Ryan Spann. to win in his fight, and he is obviously taking on Anthony Smith in that one. And the price on Spann is, let me just check there for you, minus 150, same price obviously to the last bet there. Look, I'm going for this more based on Smith than Spann. And I know they fought before, and I know Smith won, obviously got the finish. I just don't think Anthony Smith is in the place he was a couple of years back. In fact, that was his last win. Obviously lost to Johnny Walker, and got dominated in that one, got dominated against Ankalaev. And I think at 35 years of age, funnily enough, because he's a year younger than C, I just think he's kind of trying to be on the way out a little bit. He's obviously, the podcast and the work on the broadcast and everything like that. And for a guy who's 50 odd fights deep nearly, it's it's a lot. It is a lot. Spann, as I said, like since that fight, okay, he's gone 2-1. He's got 2 very good knockouts against Cutelaba and Reyes, and lost with a submission to Krylov. And look, that's in a nutshell what needs to happen here. He needs to keep the fight off the ground, and he needs to land his big shots against Anthony Smith. Like, I think Smith recently has shown, when you are standing up with him, that if you have the power of someone like Spann or say an Ankalaev or Walker, that it turns into, and this is maybe a little bit unfair, but it turns into survival mode at times. And if Spann, and like, I remember watching Spann's fight recently for one of the previews coming up, and like he does get caught an awful lot, right, with submissions and things like that, but he's also like he can wrestle if he chooses that, if he gets in a good position. And sometimes you think, right, rather than you getting taken down and you getting submitted, why don't you take him down, and why don't you try to submit him? Like, he has 12 submission wins, he's only 6 knockouts. He can very much do that, right? And what I think, if you look at Anthony Smith's losses, right, Walker, Ankalaev, Rakic, Glover, John Jones, Thiago Santos, it's all really good athletes he's losing to, right? The guys he's beaten, Lee Spann out of it for a second, but Crew, Clark, Gustafsson, Odzamir, Shogun, Rashad, there's some good athletes in there, make no mistake about it, but lads kind of, some of them a little bit older and some of them not as good of athletes as the guys who I mentioned he lost to. But you have to make this, if you're Spann, and I think he will, make this a fight where Smith is kind of put into that mindset of like, oh no, I'm going that way again. This is going negatively. And I think if you put Smith into that mindset, I think it's, and like this is more based on that than I think anything technical or anything that I'm going to throw at you here. I just think Smith is at that stage of his career where, he was always great at talking and always a tough guy in there. But if that no longer holds up in the cage, it's a bad situation. And Spann needs to do that. Like, Spann needs to, he needs to do it now at this stage of his career. That brings pressure, but it also kind of brings a necessity. And I think that necessity will help him. And I do think it will be good. And I think he will win the fight. And the second bet I'm going for, I was very surprised with this price, like really surprised with this price. And it's Erin Blanchfield. Again, at minus 150. It seems like everyone's at minus 150 there, but Erin Blanchfield at minus 150 to win her fight here. And against Taila Santos, sorry. I really love this fight for Erin Blanchfield. I really do. Now, I'm someone who's admired Taila Santos, and I think she is a very good fighter, and in that fight with Valentina Shevchenko, I was like, Taila Santos did so well on the way into it. Even I was saying, like, she's a good athlete, just like Blanchfield is as well. She did really well in that fight. Maybe she should have got an immediate rematch. But sometimes, right, and I heard not to quote Chael Sonnen again, but I heard him talking about O'Malley, and it's like, sometimes it's just someone's time. And I feel like cold-blooded Erin Blanchfield. It's just her time. Like the way she dealt with Jessica Andrade, like, okay, dealing with Manny McCann and JJ Aldrich and Miranda Maverick is one thing, but dealing with Andrade the way she did was just phenomenal. Was really, really, really just phenomenal. And like Andrade, that was the fight as well, where Andrade actually came out and she, landed a few shots, and she was fighting and she was live in there, and Blanchfield still came through it. To be fair now as well to Santos, that loss and that close, the split decision loss to Shevchenko probably looks a little bit worse in retrospect, considering Shevchenko ended up losing in her next fight, but maybe it shouldn't really. I just think, right, I think Blanchfield is a good enough fighter to not get dominated in any place. Now, when I say dominated, I like that's the that's the loosest term of the word. I think she'll probably win everywhere, right? So like Santos, if she she has a few takedowns in it, she is fast, she hits hard. I think Blanchfield, like, look at her groundwork against obviously Molly McCann, she destroyed her. But look what she did with those shots against Andrade. Look the way she submitted her, like 3 submission wins in her last 3 fights. And she can do it standing up. She can land that big left hand. She's only 2 knockouts in 11, but I think that's something that's going to improve as well. And I really think she is someone, and again, I'm basing this one, the first 2 are very much based off technique and a technical opinion. But this one I think is based on, I love her nickname. I'd never realized it before, cold-blooded. Like, it's based on more a cold-blooded, this is her time. This is, 2 fighters who are very good, but it feels like one is destined to win it, And sometimes when that is the case, and like, when that's the case, it's very hard to unroll that, if you want to put it that way. But also, when someone is, and funny I use the word unroll, when someone's on a roll like she is, like fighting last year, June, November, February, and now back again 6 months later, it does feel like she is on that roll. And like, look at Santos is kind of the opposite then. She fought in June of last year, and she hasn't fought since, and it was 7 months before that when she fought as well. So it's Erin Blanchfield time for me, and I really like that price of -150. All right, let's get to the flyer of the week. And the flyer of the week, as I said, is a parlay from over in PFL. I almost called it Bellator there. Maybe soon it will be Bellator, who knows? And the parlay is +385, and I'm going for Aubin Mercier, Magomed Karimov, Michel Montague, and Shane Burgos. So just to quickly maybe run through the 3 of those. We obviously already spoken about Burgos. Aubin Mercier, first of all, he's fighting Bruno Miranda, and he's -400 in that fight. I think Miranda's style, he fights out of Novo Yao, and he's kind of that go forward, land these big hooks, Muay Thai type of style. I think Aubin Mercier at -400 is just going to deal with that. I call him my preview control. He's a controller, He controls everything, and I think he can control that fight. I think he'll keep him at the end of the jab. I think he'll push him against the cage. Maybe he'll even get a couple of takedowns in the midst of all of that. And that's the way I see that one going. Magomed Karimov, he's fighting Solomon Renfro, who I think is a good fighter. He's -649, which is a big price in there. Obviously wouldn't be betting that straight up, but Renfro has a good takedown, and he throws some big strikes, but I think Magomed Karimov is going to win the takedown battle. If he does get taken down, I think he'll get back up, and I don't think he'll give Renfro the opportunity to land his strikes. I think Magomed Karimov is going to be on the front foot early here, get the big takedown. Like, the one I would compare Renfro to in Magomed Karimov's, I suppose, recent career is Ray Cooper, in terms of he's a big hitter on the inside. I don't think he's as good as Ray Cooper. I don't think he hits necessarily as hard. And we saw in some of those fights. Look, he did get hit and knocked out by Ray Cooper, don't make no mistake about it, but he did get lots of takedowns against him as well, and I think that's the way this one will go as well. We spoke about Burgos, obviously he's minus 120, and then minus 120 Michelle Montague as well. She is a really decorated IMAF competitor. She is coming in here against Abigail Montez, and this one will be won based on size. She's a genuine 145er. She's Kayla Harrison's training partner. She's 3-0. Montez, a very good fighter. Probably a better fighter, but I think she's a 125er, not a 145er, and this is going to be problems here. She's just going to be too big. I think she's going to take the fight to the ground, and I think she's going to get the submission. So Oba Mercier, Magomed Karimov, Montague and Burgos, the 4 person parlay, plus 385 on that one. Right, so those are the 5 bets. Let's look at some of the other prices from this weekend. The Contender series, I said I'd mention that. The one fight I want to look at, here are some of the prices. Pereira against Dos Santos, plus 165, minus 215 for Dos Santos. Verbeek and Lindgren is a fight that is minus 245 for Lindgren, and Verbeek plus 185. Elia Anarov, minus 110, minus 120 for Zach Reese. There, Pugello and Ring is very close, but minus 110 here. But the fight I want to talk about, Oban Elliott, if you haven't seen my interview, then please do. Really open, really good interview, even if I do say so myself, but please check it out. He speaks really well, but he is, probably the Cage Warriors welterweight #1 contender now. Against Kai Brito, who is the Octagon champion. Brito is minus 150, minus 120 for Oban Elliott. Very interesting fight, a very even fight. Brito is a very good fighter, fights with kind of that open stance and looking for those big hooks inside. With Oban Elliott, you don't know what you're going to get from him. He's a good wrestler, he's a good boxer, he does it differently in every fight, improving in all areas as well. That is an unbelievable fight. I'm going to go with Oban. Maybe call me a little bit biased, but Oban at plus money, I'll probably go with that. If it was the other way around, maybe you go the other way around, but I can't wait for that fight. At PFL, we've obviously gone through almost all of these now at this stage. Some of the undercard fights there. Alexei Pergande, I really like him, but he's minus 1,000. I do think he will win. I like Coop, minus 150. Obviously, Montague, as I said, minus 120 there. Al-Qatani and Zellner, minus 400 for Al-Qatani. I think that is a bit steep. I do think he will win, but if Zellner's plus 275, if he was plus 375, I'd probably put a bet on him, but I think not enough there. And as I said, look, just quickly, the top 4 fights, minus 110 for both Collard and Burgos. Miranda plus 275, Oba Mercia minus 400. C plus minus 150 plus 110 for Miranda, and Magomed Karimov is the minus 649 favourite over the plus 400 Solomon Renfro. Then in the UFC, as I said, recording this very early, so the props aren't out yet, but feel free to have a look at them. Let me know in the comment section below what prop you're betting on. Chan Sung Jung is obviously a massive underdog, plus 500, minus 800 from Max Holloway. I think we all know how that's going to go. We spoke about Smith and Spann. I actually had Giga Chikadze as one of my bets for this week and changed it late. I really like that price. I think he's going to bounce back well here. He is, let me just check here again, minus 225, plus 188 for Alex Caceres. Now, Alex Caceres, I do think he can be a little bit underrated at times, but I do like Giga in that one. I think that's a good price. We spoke about Blanchfield and Santos, obviously, and a few of the other fights on it. Chidi and Jaquani. I like Chidi. Chidi's plus money here, plus 100, minus 125 for Mikhail Ilasheshuk. The thing about him was, I was looking at that bet as well. He's only been knocked out once in his career, and he's fought Jacoby, fought Khalil Roundtree. Like, isn't Jaquani going to be able to get the knockout? And if he can't, what's going to happen there later? I avoided it for that reason. I like Aldrich. She's a big favourite though, minus 600 over plus 440 Ling Nan, who lost her first 2 UFC fights. Song Kanan trying to bounce back from the Ian Gary loss. He's plus 200 over Rolando Biota, minus 250. So yeah, that's the kind of the top and bottom of the bets for this week. And yeah, we leave it there. Just to recap, my 5 bets for the week: Burgos minus 120, number 1. Number 2, Sadibou C minus 150. Minus 150 again for Ryan Spann, and minus 150 for Erin Blanchfield. And then we have the Parlay Flier plus 385. Oba Mercia, Magomed Karimov, Montague, and Burgos to get you the plus 385. All right, everyone, I will leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let me know your bet for the week in the comment section below. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.